Okay. Let's see. Yeah. This will do it. This will do it. This will stop him from coming in my house ever again. Yes.
Zool, motherfucker! Zool!
Huh. So Tennesseans taste like Drake, not chicken. Eh. Gonna have to rework on my palate later. Hello, hello, everybody. This is the Crimson Weresloth here, and sorry about Al. I had to take a chomp, if you would, but that's neither here nor there. Today, I'm here for a pitch meeting. That's right. Hey, Merc and Al aren't the only ones who do pitch meetings, or Ander in that matter. Speaking of which, where the fuck is that guy? Huh. Hey, he'll break into this house later. But that's neither here nor there. I'm here to introduce you all to this pitch idea. That pitch idea being basically using the concept of the nebulous civilization manga as inspiration. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what is nebulous civilization? Well, it's currently an ongoing manga because here's that I will have a link into the description. But basically, the nebulous civilization evolves with a game that basically teleports a large number of its player base into this world in order to become gods of this world. And yes, you heard me, they're gods. Technically not fully gods, but gods in the rights of the races that will begin to worship them. And when I say races, this is a fantasy setting. We're using old D&D rules, not the new 2014. Wait, fuck, not 2014. 2024 edition, where we have Mexican orcs. No, 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 no. This world basically, it has a lot of things to it. It has cards that tells you what your domain is. It has a unique system of worship, of increasing your civilization's power. There's a lot to this world, and I know there's a novel. I do not have the time to read said novel, so I'm gonna have to wait for it to show up in the mangas. That's gonna take me forever. But there is some interesting things that you can utilize in this because they introduce things like magical radiation. The not so main character, but the focusing character, Rack, started off as a blue skinned lizard man. But as he begins to worship Nebulous, the main character, he starts growing black scales, which is actually pretty interesting when you coming to the inclusion of magical radiation, which, again, you, the writer, can utilize. Like, imagine if we bring in SAO Abridge in this story. Instead of them being trapped in Minecraft, I think it was called. Instead of that game, imagine them being trapped in this type of game. They have to build their civilization, and if they lose the game, they're told that they will die. Of course, the beta testers would know that that's not always going to be the case. If you die, if you're defeated in a certain way, congratulations. The player who just defeated you can decide if you live or die. Which could be very interesting in the idea, that Kirito is just slowly building up maybe a pantheon, or just simply goes, you know what, fuck you, crushes the statue and just continues on his work. Who knows? It's Sao Sao Bridge Kirito. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be fun. But honestly, you could put this in almost any kind of media. I know I don't know much about Worm, but I know for a fact that both my friend Andrew and Merc are really interested in Worm. Just have it that when Taylor has her powers, boom, she's suddenly there. Hell, the main character of the manga uses bugs. It would not be a stretch. It should just have Taylor replace the main character. Furthermore, this story does have potential, both as the source of inspiration for world builders such as myself, but it also is a very good experiment to play with. You can test out certain things. You can create your own worlds for this. Hell, this would be a very great way to begin a D&D EDMs. Like, imagine being an aspiring DM and you want to build a world. Well, maybe just use this as a means to figure out how your world was created to this point, how the gods got to this powerful position in this world, how these civilizations and history is built out. Honestly, this manga is not a bad way of exercising your world building. Either it be for your own personal DMing for Dungeons and Dragons, or maybe you want to do a crossover and want to see how well these characters will do things. And again, this can be from any form of media, such as again SEO Abridge, Worm, Ruby, hell, even bringing in some video game series such as Mass Effect. Like, honestly, now I want to know how Garrus Vakarian would work in this game, especially with all his calibrations. Tully would definitely be cheating the system. I can feel it. But other than that, there's also the other interesting elements of this game. For instance, demons do exist in this world. It is actually stated that demons can give sorcery powers. However, Rakrak, one of the main characters of the story, was able to convince said demon to worship their blue bug god, which they call their god. It's not his name, but that's what the people call him. But after said demon swore allegiance towards the blue bug god, said, said demon started passing down electric powers to a chosen five group. Apparently, he works exclusively with the god, but there's also most likely the case of them working with Rakrak. There's a lot. Again, there's a lot that you can do with this series. honestly, I would love to go further into this pitch meeting, but I do a lot better with bouncing from one person to another to figure out some ideas, evolving with some stories. World building is one of my top things that I'm actually better than Mr. Too Horny to think who is currently on the ground bleeding from his skull. Hmm. Oh, that's a chunk of brain. Uh, Gonna put this back into his skull. But that doesn't matter at this current moment. What does matter is that we could, could actually begin using this as the best, and I do mean best, form of world building. You want to you want to figure out how race A, race B, race C would adapt with maybe underneath the command of Kirito Asuna, and let's go with Sugaha. Yes, I know she wasn't in Aincrad, but I'm making an example here. Let's say Kirito it's the lizard folk, and he has the uh, let's say moonlight. Well, those lizards would probably still get the black scales, but hey, they're now devoting their lives towards a moon god. While, say, elves start worshipping a sun goddess, and some goblins are worshipping a nature deity. I honestly don't know. Again, I normally go back and forth when it comes to these pitch ideas, but that's not really going to be the case today. You're going to be hearing me ramble. But the supernatural elements also adds in another thing, magical radiation, mutations. This is a common thing I use for my world building when it comes to a fantasy setting because magical radiation is a very cool way to make your races unique. For instance, in the case example from the original manga, actually stated that that if Rakrak wanted to, the demon could have just had Rakrak's entire bloodline be able to use this power. Now, again, there is some downside for doing this because it removes was a large chunk of faith points for their god, which Rakrak would not have known. And he only is able to figure out that there was a ploy because he had gained a new trait of being perspective of being insightful towards strangers after dealing with the frog folk, which that alone happened earlier. Again, there's a large amounts of cause and effect in this story that makes this very great for world building. Simply put, this is a simply doing a story in this kind of format would be perfect for your world building because you go through the entirety of the history of this world. Even if you just focus on one particular player, let let's say you limit yourself to one particular player, all the other groups you're still gonna have to write some reason why they're in the position of power they are now. However, you also are working on multiple different characters, multiple different gods to be exact. Sorry. Then you have the means to actually write a full, unaltered history. Something that doesn't revolve the survivors of the conflict to tell the main character, but instead, there isn't a main character. There's just a bunch of main characters. You don't know who is going to win. This is going to be the thing that draws people to the story because once we know who the main character is, we know who wins. However, if you basically branch edge up the main characters, like instead of just being one, maybe it's okay, the story is going to be focusing on these. Let's limit it down to 10 so you guys don't kill yourselves. Then there's actual stake. There's actual reason to write these characters to be likable because now the readers are going to pick a favorite. They're going to want to know which one actually wins, which one's actually survives, which one will become the main god. Now, of course, you don't want to do it like asshole god gonna win, but if you make asshole god relatable, or at least basically the SAO Kirito, he's an asshole for fuck's sakes, then you actually make a likable asshole and you do want to see him win because he's an asshole for reasonable reasons. I would like to continue going forward, but I basically ran out of things to go over for this pitch idea. This was a very short one. I'm not really used to doing solo pitch meetings. We might have a future one evolving with me and Merc. I do know that the next time you're going to see me, I'm probably going to be raging. So, Al, watch your fucking self. Oh, and by the way, me in the Fedora gas mask wearing Eldritch monster abomination of a friend of ours, yeah, both me and him aren't happy. Either you give him a better fucking review, or I'm pretty sure he's not gonna be doing any more of the bear roamed east. The Kaiser Reich and Gates story, for fuck's sakes. Either way, see ya, everybody. I'm gonna leave before he wakes up, and probably meet up with Merc at Castle 69. Have a wonderful day, folks.